Hey folks, welcome to the Park Church Podcast. I'm your host, James Lepine, and this month of December we have another partner with us, and so Derek Kuykendall from Providence Network is here with us. He's the executive director at Providence Network, and you've probably heard about them. We have folks who volunteer over there. Maybe you are one of those people. Maybe you've given money to them, but they're doing amazing work in the city that we're going to hear about today. If you want to check out any of the resources that we talk about here on the show, go to parkchurchdenver.org/park-podcast, and you'll see Derek's name and picture there. You can click on that to get into the show page and the show notes and just dive deeper on any of the stuff that we talked about today. If you're enjoying the show, I haven't said this in a while, so I'm going to say it this month. If you're enjoying it, hop into iTunes and subscribe. That helps other people find the show. When those subscriber numbers go up, or the ratings and reviews, when those go up, it just helps other people find the show. So if you could take a couple minutes and do that in iTunes, I would really appreciate it. And that'll do it for me. We're going to jump into the interview with Derek now. Hey, Derek. Welcome to the show.
Hi, James. Thanks for having me.
And welcome to Park Church.
Love being here.
You said you've been here before.
Sure. Big shout out to Park Church.
Yeah.
I mean, you all have been a close and dear partner of ours for a few years now.
Yeah.
And many people in the congregation have become familiar with us through volunteering and financially donating to us as well to support what we're doing. So.
Well, we love what you guys are doing, and excited to tell folks who aren't aware what Providence Network is all about. But before we do that, I want you to tell us a little bit more about you. You have a Dutch last name.
Very Dutch, both sides.
Yeah, okay. Nice.
Yeah, we did one of those 23andMe recently.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 90+% Dutch.
Wow, extremely Dutch. Okay.
Yes.
My mom thinks that those are just a giant conspiracy to get your data.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they were fun for us to do.
Yeah, I think my dad would care much less. So I think I hope he isn't listening to this. I think we're going to get him one of those for Christmas, 23andMe, so he can learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about 23andMe,
No.
are we? No. Tell me about yourself. Where'd you grow up? How did you get involved? And then take me all the way to how you got involved with Providence Network.
I'm a fourth-generation Coloradan.
Wow.
Yeah, not a lot of us around.
No
but,
kidding.
Grew up just outside of Boulder,
Okay.
kind of in the Louisville area.
Yeah.
And went to university at the University of Puget Sound, small liberal arts college in Tacoma, Washington.
Yeah.
After graduating there, I worked for Young Life in Colorado Springs for the Dale House Project, which is a little bit of a outlier in the Young Life model. It was a group home with kids coming out of prison or were in foster care. And the home was its own Young Life project, and that the staff were Young Life staff. And so, and that's really where God kind of touched me in a special way towards the kind of work that my life trajectory went from there.
Did you study to do this kind of work?
Yeah, I was a sociology major and an econ minor, but just really through my college years, being in Tacoma, Washington, at the time was a pretty gritty town, and so there were a lot of opportunities for urban work, and I volunteered quite a bit in college, and I just really had this heart for life on the margins and those that were living there. So, yeah, after school, I did this Dale House Project experience. It was hands-on work, but also taking classes through Fuller Seminary.
Okay.
And so that kind of really married my faith passions with the work in a unique way.
Yeah.
And so dated my now wife while we were both working for Young Life there at Dale House.
Living in the Dale House together?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay,
yeah.
wow.
The model was that the staff lived on the block, separate living quarters than the kids, but we all kind of lived in community together.
Cool.
And so we got married, and we lived in Portland, Oregon for 6 years.
Oh.
And I got a Master's of Social Work from the Portland State University.
Okay.
And
how many degrees do you have here?
Well, just that's it. I was done.
Seminary degree and then
well, I didn't get a seminary degree.
Oh, okay.
I took classes through Fuller, but
okay.
I didn't. And actually, at that point in my life, I was kind of confused at a fork. Do I go kind of the pastoral counseling route, seminary, or do I go Masters of Social Work, more working in maybe secular environments?
Okay.
And that's the route I ended up taking. Okay. After I graduated with an MSW, I started doing community mental health, kind of family therapy.
In Portland?
In Portland.
Okay.
And it was with Medicaid families.
Okay.
And families that had a child that had been adjudicated, had been arrested, and so did some kind of family work with them. And I did that for almost 2 years, and I got completely burnt out.
Right.
And I thought, oh my gosh, I just went to graduate school in order to do this work, and I'm not cut out for it, actually.
Oh, man.
So had a little bit of a crisis of identity there, and was able to quit my job and do some construction work. And at the same time, my wife got pregnant with our first child, and she had been working at the same time. So here I was, we were at a transition. We decided to move back to Colorado.
Okay.
And I got a job with the Lakewood Housing Authority.
Okay.
And running all their family self-sufficiency programs. And so worked in Lakewood for almost 6 years and really got a lot of experience in housing and affordable housing and this idea of merging services along with affordable housing.
Okay.
And
services.
Yes, counseling, job training,
got it.
Financial literacy.
Yes.
Those kinds of things.
Here's a place to live, and here's how to live.
Here's a place to live, and while you live here, we're going to give you a chance to, improve your situation.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. And then a friend of mine called me one day and said that there was an opening at this urban ministry that he thought I might be good at, and it was Providence Network.
Okay.
And so that was 10 years ago. I just celebrated my 10th anniversary of being the executive director of Providence.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah.
Wow.
It seems significant to have been there that long.
What was the actual date, do you know?
I don't.
Okay.
And that's a great question because in last spring, I went to a lunch meeting with some people, and before I knew it, I was being walked into this other part of the restaurant, and there were over 50 people there, surprise party for me to celebrate. And part of why it was such a shock is I had no idea that was the date that I started 10 years previously.
Okay.
I just remember it as the spring of 2008.
Yeah.
But no, there was a specific day in April, and our deputy director, Karen Houston, she's amazing at remembering those things and celebrating dates. And so she put this together, and I was just in awe.
That's cool.
Of that.
Are you a surprise party guy?
No.
Okay.
No. And so my family thought the look on my face was priceless because they knew fairly introverted guy and the idea of 50 people in a room on my occasion
for you,
was
right?
A little...
Right. Do they have a picture of that moment?
Yeah.
You'll have to send that to me. That can be the podcast picture that we'll put on the website.
It's my best look.
Well, okay. Wow. So 10 years there, and you've been executive director the whole time?
Yes.
Okay. So what was the state of the organization when they were bringing you in?
It was, there were a lot of challenges financially.
Okay.
And so a couple of the first decisions we made were tough ones. We sold a couple properties to get back on solid financial footing.
Yeah.
At the same time, we were blessed with a couple of really generous donations and grants that wanted to help us grow.
Okay.
So ironically, we had to sell a couple of houses to get on solid operational funding position, but then we were given this money restricted to buying a new property.
Oh, wow.
And we were starting to change our model a little bit too. So this was an apartment building.
Okay.
And
that you were purchasing?
That we purchased about a year or two after we sold the other two buildings.
That was probably a hard time to sell properties, 2008.
Oh yeah, this was at the peak or the dip in the recession in the real estate market.
Yeah.
So not a great time to sell, but a great time to buy.
Right.
And so we sold these two little homes that were single family homes.
Okay.
And then turned around and bought a 23-unit apartment complex in Curtis Park neighborhood.
Whoa! Wow.
So,
is it still there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
okay.
And we can get into kind of more what the life of Prov looks like now. But at that time, it was challenging. I mean, I had just come on in 2008. The economy drops. We are 100% funded by private donors. So we rely on churches and corporate sponsors and individuals and foundations to support us. So that was a tough time. I think I didn't really know how tough it was though, because I had just started.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd been in that position of leadership with an organization. So we just kind of trudged through, and I have a great board of directors that really helped see this through. So, and eventually we kind of climbed out and got back on solid ground. But yeah, those first few days, weeks, months, a couple years really were, when I look back, kind of a challenge.
Yeah. How long has Providence Network been in existence?
30 years.
Okay, so you came in at the 20-year mark.
Yes.
It's kind of in decline, and you're brought in to revitalize it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was totally in decline,
Okay.
but we needed a shot in the arm.
Gotcha.
I think.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I think we're back trajecting in the right direction.
Yeah, good. And have you changed the strategic emphasis over there?
Well, yeah, we've made a number of changes.
Okay.
The model we have right now is a two-tiered housing model.
Okay.
So we serve people that are coming out of homelessness, either from addictions or domestic violence, and then we bring them in what we call first step housing.
Okay.
And that is this idea of kind of 2 years to get back on your feet. And 2 years is long when you compare our program to other transitional housing programs. So 2 years, it's pretty intense. Case management, mental health counseling, addiction sobriety training, job training. And the idea is people that have been living on the streets, that have been oppressed by addictions or oppressed through domestic violence, really need 2 years to kind of relearn some new values and principles for themselves. And then once they take ownership of those, we feel like they can kind of launch from there. And so that's where we created what's called next step housing. And so this is the second tier of our housing model. And that's these apartment complexes that we own in the city, where our people that have graduated from first step can go live out kind of the new values and principles that they've internalized in our first step housing. And so it's very independent living, but it's a bunch of people that learned the value of living in community with each other.
Right.
So they're supporting each other on a daily basis. They're helping each other babysit kids. They're giving rides to work. They're hosting Bible studies or Bronco games on Sundays, and they're really living in close community because they've realized that's what they need in order to stay sober, in order to keep their job, in order to stay accountable in their relationships. So that's the two-tier model that we've developed over the last 10 years, and it's been quite successful.
Awesome.
Yes.
Was it trial and error to land on that 2-year period? How'd you figure that out?
Well, so our founder, his name's Andy Cannon, and he's a pastor of a local church, Open Door Fellowship Church.
Okay.
And it was really his vision 30 years ago to heal by living in community with each other. And so that's part of what makes us unique as a transitional housing organization, is that our staff actually live in the homes with the residents. So it's a very life-on-life, incarnational, mentoring model. And so that's been growing and evolving over 30 years. And what we found at about the 20-year mark is that a lot of our residents could really do well in a kind of tight community environment of 2 years. But unless they had somewhere to go move into after that was going to continue to support their goals of sobriety and employment and staying in healthy relationships, a lot of them, it was just a matter of time before they would slip back to old patterns of living, because a lot of times they would just go where they could afford to live, or they'd go back to old friends that were going to give them a room in their house. And so we thought, what can we do to help that next step of recovery? And so it was this idea of adding these apartment complexes, which, by the way, has a kind of a double mission. I mean, it certainly has our social mission, but it's also an economic and financial one, in that the apartments, we lower the rents low enough that our folks can afford them, but there's enough from the rents to cover the overhead of the building, and then kicks some money back into our general fund to help offset the higher costs of the first step homes.
Got it.
So it's a pretty financially sustainable model,
right,
with these two tiers.
That's cool. And so you said you have 5 properties in the first tier?
We now have 6.
6, okay.
So just in the last year, we've added 2 more properties.
Cool, okay.
Very, very aggressive.
Yeah.
But really because of opportunity.
Okay. Are those typically single-family homes? So
we now own 3 single-family homes and then 3 apartment buildings, and so they pair together.
Wow. Okay. So wait, how many people do you have in the first tier versus the second tier? Do people move out of the second tier at some point? How does all that work?
Yeah, we find that about 70% of our people in the next step properties move on within 4 years.
Okay.
And mostly for good reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, we certainly do have people that relapse, or they break their leases, just like any apartment arrangement. But a lot of them end up with another couple years of sobriety and employment, are able to move into market rent, or they get jobs out of state, or they go back to college, or we've even had a handful of homeowners, people that buy their first-time homes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So typically the in and out flow works out.
Yeah. And for the other 30% that have been there longer than 4 years, there's multiple populations in that demographic of we've got some people on disability, we've got some elder people, and then we've got some people that are single moms that are trying to raise their kids in a stable, affordable, nonviolent, drug and alcohol free environment. So for them, we're saying, okay, we want you to be able to raise that child in this environment if you're at risk to going somewhere where the child's going to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Normally I ask specific challenges and successes that you face, but I feel like we've hit some of those. But if you have stuff you want to talk about there, that's great.
Well, I think specific challenges, the population that we serve is growing.
Yeah.
And it's hard when we have one opening at one of our houses to have 15, 20 people show up.
Yeah.
And, our model, we served 175 people last year.
Okay.
We project to serve over 200 this year.
Wow.
Because we've added the new homes. But it's hard to turn people away. And at the same time, our model is to probably be more focused and pour more resource into few because we believe in the long run the outcome will be more positive. So that's kind of part of what sets us apart from maybe some of the bigger players in town, Rescue Mission, Salvation Army. They are our partners, and what they do really well is kind of that emergency short-term stabilization work. And so we get a lot of our residents that come out of those programs after somebody decides they kind of want to be in a stable transitional program for a couple years. Then they'll come to us, and so we're that next rung on the ladder. And then with our next step housing, we provide another rung on the ladder, which is more towards independence. But so we're small and we're focused, and we go deep with the individual rather than seeing, the almost 5,000 homeless people in the metro area as being our goal to serve all of them. We can't. And right now, our DNA and our history is to really just pour a lot into families.
That's cool.
Individuals.
What do you do when 15 people show up and you have one spot? How do y'all make that decision?
It's tough.
Yeah.
We don't take any mandated clients or residents, meaning we won't take anyone that a judge has sentenced to one of our homes. So there's no external motivation for our residents. It has to be all internal. They have to decide for themselves that they want to be there. And that's kind of how we run our program. It's highly accountable, but bottom line is, like, if this isn't working for you, you can leave. Like, nobody's telling you have to be here. And so we're looking for motivation during the interviews. And many people, it's just not the right time for them. A lot of them come thinking that they just need housing, and then they realize this is much more than just housing. And so a lot of people kind of weed themselves out initially. But for those that really are trying to get into the program, it's mostly motivation. And we never just say, sorry, you didn't make it. We try to be encouraging. We try to give them information of other places that might be a good fit for them. We try to make sure nobody leaves without some sort of information and encouragement.
Yeah, that's good. Any specific stories that come to mind of late that you'd like to share?
Well, I should probably back up and give a little bit more background. I feel like I glossed over a little bit. So we have 3 First Step homes, and each one of those homes serves a unique population. So, for instance, Providence House serves single men and single women who are overcoming substance abuse. Then our Joy House serves moms and their children who are escaping domestic violence. And then just within this past year, we opened another home called Silver Lining House. And that one serves homeless young adults from the streets, so that 18 to 25-year-old age group that is growing in Denver. And that one is a partnership with Dry Bones Denver. Dry Bones is a ministry that does street outreach. They befriend and do mentoring for homeless street youth. And so we created this home where they are kind of the referral pipeline to the home, and then they stay involved as mentors and friends of the young adults. So each one of those homes kind of has its own little focus to the program. And when you ask about a story, I mean, each one of them have stories, but I keep thinking about one of our Joy House moms who, was referred to the Joy House from a detox center. She had overdosed, and her child had been taken away from her, and she was a heroin user, and she was suicidal. And after she got out of detox, she had to go to Suicide Watch, and it was from there that she was referred to Joy House. And they told her this place is faith-based.
Yeah.
That's integral to their program. So just a heads up. And she said to herself, maybe that's what I need. So she came to Joy House, and like a lot of folks, was desperate at first, and then she started to get more sobriety, and she started to make some real strides in her personal life. And then the Child Protective Services saw that she was in a stable place, both at Joy House and just personally, and so they gave her child back.
Wow.
So she got custody back of her child, and then that child became a primary motive to her to really heal. And so she just recently graduated from Joy House.
Wow.
And has moved into one of our Next Step buildings with her child. And I just think all the barriers she was able to overcome to get her life back on track. I mean, we talk about biblically, the orphans and the widows. That was a case where she was kind of both and her child. And being able to serve her, not in a way that just kind of provided shelter for her, but really encouraged her to take ownership of her life and as a parent. And now she's on a course that she has a chance to change the generational cycle with her child now living with her in a stable, affordable, drug and alcohol-free place, which she had come from generations of that. So I think it's a good example of the potential we have to really make lasting change, not only in individuals' lives, but throughout a family system.
Yes. Yeah, that's incredible. I love that story. Are the apartments population specific?
No.
No.
So once you graduate from one of our homes...
Sorry, the first tier apartments.
Mm-hmm. No, the first tier are single family homes. So you're living like a family.
I thought you said the apartment buildings were first tier as well.
No.
Sorry. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So you have the 3 homes that are first tier, and then you have 4 apartment buildings.
3 first tier homes, 3 second tier
buildings. Got it. Okay, sorry. I was totally confused there.
Well, it's changed a lot in the last year. So the second story is that it was about a year ago in December where a friend of mine that works for the Denver Rescue Mission, Josh Japelt, called and said, "Hey, we're closing down one of our buildings. Would you guys be interested at all in buying it from us? It's important to us that this building stays kind of with a mission-minded, faith-based organization." And I thought, oh my gosh, we're not even done raising money for the youth home that we just moved kids into. and this opportunity to buy another building, I said, I don't know. But I talked to my board. We went on tours of the building. And we just decided that it was an opportunity we couldn't pass up. It turns out it was Champa House, which is a home that they had been running for over 20 years that served moms with kids, single moms. And it happens to be only 2 doors south of our Clausen house, which is a 2-tier, a next step building of ours. So the ability to own a 23-unit apartment, and then 2 doors down own the 13-unit apartment building, just felt like something that we needed to heed. And so through a series of events, we had a donor of ours agree to loan us the money, which was $1.5 million for 2 years, and give us 2 years to raise the money. And then the Anschutz Foundation locally also gave us $250,000.
Wow.
So we bought it for $1.75, which was actually a great deal. It had been appraised at over $2 million.
Wow. And
so Denver Rescue Mission essentially, offered it to us at that price so that we could buy it and make it happen.
Yeah.
So we've been working on it, and we hope to have 9 people moved in by Christmas.
Wow.
And then the remaining 4 units we'll work on and hopefully have people moved in by the spring.
Renovations?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, so we've grown quite a bit,
Yeah.
even in just the last year.
Yeah.
But we feel like we have a unique offering to the city. Mm-hmm. And we feel like, we'll never be as big as the rescue mission or, some of the others. But we do have a unique way of addressing the homeless issue. And so we do want to grow kind of horizontally, what we call horizontal growth, which is to serve more people. At the same time, we're dedicated to growing vertically as well, which means to us that we're going deeper with the people that we do serve.
Yeah.
And so how can we improve the services that we provide with those that we're already housing to go deeper with them and help them make the changes that they want for their lives.
I'm sure there are people listening at this point who are inspired and who want to help. Outside of financial donations, what are the ways that Park people have been the most helpful to y'all?
Yeah. Well, being kind of a real estate ministry, with 6 homes now, there's no shortage of projects with the homes.
Okay.
And so
construction stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maintenance stuff, landscaping stuff.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, it's quite common for me to go to one of the homes and come across a group from a church of, 6 to 8 people that are painting or something. And so that's always helpful because that's stuff that normally we'd have to pay an outside contractor to do.
Gotcha.
So that has, real value to us. But then there's also opportunities over the years where people have wanted to be really committed, consistent donors, and they are volunteers, and maybe that includes bringing a meal to one of the homes to serve, but to also stay and join the home for the meal.
Yep.
Those kinds of things. And then people are just getting creative, I feel like. Maybe you you have a birthday party and you say instead of presents, maybe bring some dishware that we'll donate to one of the Providence homes.
Okay.
People are running races and raising funds in our name.
Awesome.
Anything you can do that's kind of already part of your social network.
Yeah.
If it's working out or being in triathlons, or it's, going out on a Friday night with your friends. Maybe you do something creative one night and have one of our staff come and give a presentation and you guys brainstorm ways that your group of friends of 20-somethings can do something for Providence Network. I mean, we're always open for other people doing things that they're good at and they're talented at, and have us be kind of the beneficiaries of it.
Create your own job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. And providencenetwork.org?
Correct.
That's where people would go?
Yes.
And there's a volunteer tab there or something?
Exactly.
Okay.
We have an interesting opportunity coming up this weekend. I think it's already been, we already have the volunteers we need.
Okay.
And I think a number of them are from Park Church. We have this annual Christmas event called Mr. Hugs Christmas. And Hugs stands for Hand Up Giving Store. And what we found about 10 years ago was that all these really well-meaning donors would kind of flood our homes with gifts at Christmas time. And it kind of created this frenzy at the homes where our residents would rush to the living room and they'd start fighting with each other over these gifts and who was going to get what. And we thought, that kind of contradicts what we stand for the rest of the year. So how can we turn this into something different? And at the time, we had heard of these stores at Christmas as a more empowering way for people to experience the generosity of donors at Christmas. So we started taking all those gifts that donors were giving to us, and we set them up in a store-like arrangement with a cashier and personal shoppers and present wrappers, and it became this thing annually. Now it's a huge party where we have all of our residents, our alumni, volunteers, and it's this huge 300 to 400 people show up, and it's a store on one half of the room.
Okay.
And then the other half of the room, there's a band playing Christmas carols, Santa Claus, and catered food. And,
nice. And
it's a great chance to connect. And so the residents will shop for these items, and they're very low priced, $1, $3, $5 for new items.
Yeah.
And when they go to the cash register to purchase these items, they get to designate where the proceeds from that purchase will go. We have 2 local ministries that we partner with. Every year we pick different ones, and then those proceeds go towards those other ministries. So it's a very kind of pay-it-forward experience for the resident to feel. And so that's been an added kind of feature to the store experience. And it's huge. I mean, that mom at Joy House on Christmas morning and her kids get to open presents that she actually provided for them rather than something that was given to her. It's pretty empowering. Yeah. And so it's one of the highlights of our year on our event calendar is the Mr. Hugs Christmas.
We love it. We announced it a couple weeks ago here at Park, and I just want to say well done, Park Church, because I saw all the presents that you brought at the in our gallery area there. So good job. Is there anything else that you want to share, or that we can be praying for y'all specifically?
Well, I just think overarching, I want to be very grateful, specifically to Park Church, but to the church in general. I think we have done something unique in that we're providing a service to the community through housing that is very expensive. Yeah. And the truth is most housing providers rely on government subsidies. And we have not done that, largely in part because we've been able to survive based on the generosity of the church and church folk. And so I want to be very grateful of that situation. And at the same time, while we're trying to strategize our growth and do that wisely, we're starting to look at what are all the options on the table for that. And so as we kind of go through this season, a prayer, an overarching prayer for the organization is being able to grow wisely, and to continue to keep our principles that have been part of our 30 years of success near and dear and in practice.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Wisdom is always a good thing to pray for, I think. Okay, let's see how you do on these rapid fire questions. You ready? This one's easy. iPhone or Android? I see an iPhone there.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a devotee for years.
For Apple?
Yeah.
Yeah. Glad to hear that. Yeah. I haven't had many Android people on this show, and that's a fact that I'm proud of. Best meal that you've had recently? Yeah?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving meal?
Well, so I had a special year, Thanksgiving this year. My dear mother-in-law took me and my wife and our 4 kids to Kauai for Thanksgiving.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a real treat. She is a widow, and her husband and she used to visit Kauai once or twice a year during their retirement, and it was a special place for her, and we had never been there, so she wanted to take us there.
Amazing.
Show us. So
did you have Spam for Thanksgiving?
No, I didn't. I had sushi.
Oh, nice.
And she treated us that night to a nice restaurant, and it was some of the best sushi I've ever had.
Oh, I bet.
So don't cry
Favorite
too hard
role?
for me.
No, I'm not. I'm not crying at all.
I'm in Kauai eating sushi. I know you feel awful for me.
Did you have a favorite roll from the night? Do you remember?
I think it was a cobra roll.
Okay. There was actual cobra in there?
No.
Okay.
But it had, and some sushi connoisseur is going to laugh at me. I think it had spicy ahi and a couple other things. Just great. But it was caught that day, or supposedly it was. So.
Wow. Are you a soy sauce? You dip it in the soy sauce? Wasabi too?
Oh,
yeah. You like it spicy?
Yes.
Yeah, same. Edamame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did have a plate of that.
There you go. Okay.
So, easily that's been my best recent meal.
That sounds pretty good. Okay, nerdiest thing that you're into. Like the thing that you kind of don't want to tell me about.
Nerdiest thing. I have geeked out on a number of things over the years.
Okay.
I'm a really big University of Colorado football fan.
Okay.
And kind of jockey, but not really. I kind of am interested in a lot of the business side of it.
Okay.
And it goes back generations. My grandfather was actually the team doctor in the 60s for the football team.
Okay.
And so I grew up as a kid selling hot dogs at the games and the programs. And so the geekiest thing that I'm not like really out about is that I go to chat rooms and I
forums
have, and I have struck up some relationships with some of the beat writers, and I just love the details of what's going on up there.
So you're shouting hot dogs and
selling programs.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Can you give me an impersonation from back in those days?
No, I was more the silent, feel
quiet.
Sorry for me. I'm a little kid trying to sell programs. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So sales,
that's not.
Yeah, it's not your thing. Okay. Okay, and then the guy that I mentioned before we hit record, Tim Ferriss, whose podcast kind of inspired me in some ways to start this one. He has a question that he asks every guest, and so I've stolen this one from him. And I think you're going to hate it because it's kind of a deeper question. If you could put a billboard anywhere in the world, where would you put it, and what would it say?
It would probably be in a city.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a heart for the city.
Yeah.
So that might narrow it down. That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I'll probably leave here and have, this really great answer.
Yep.
But probably it'd be in the city, and maybe it's just a big billboard that says why with a question mark.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of us driving around, riding around, and we're frustrated, we're angry, we're bitter, and we don't really stop to ask, why am I doing all this? Why am I living this way? Just see a lot of it in the city, whether it's, in the skyscrapers on 17th Street, or it's under a bridge. It's the same kind of question. So
brilliant. The unexamined life is not worth living, right? Okay, I'm done. I don't have any other questions.
Great.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Park Church Podcast.